Okay, so we are ready to start our next session. I'm going to stand farther away from that speaker. So, welcome everybody. I'm pleased to introduce Anton, who is a person who's been living with HIV and using drugs for over 20 years. He's a board member of, how do you say this? Input? INPUD? Input. Okay. Representing the EECA region. And I'm just going to let him tell his story. Here you go.
Hi. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to tell my story first after such an exciting previous speaker, and second, when all this music and loud talks. Yeah, sometimes it looks like you can just open the mouth without talking anything, and everyone will think that you are kind of presenting. Okay, so I'm Anton. I'm 42, so not such aged as could be, or as some of other heroes, but I'm living with HIV almost 20 years. So next year will be 20. And why I'm here? Because I am from Eastern European Central Asia region. I'm from Ukraine, from Kiev. And this is actually the region and the country where people has all chances to be aged much faster in terms of their health issues than in some other regions, or at least in Eastern European part faster than in the Western European part. I was born in 1980. Yeah, just to illustrate a little bit of my life. Yeah, so I was born in 1980. So my teenager age, it was like close to its 90s, mid 90s. You can imagine it's the first years after Ukraine and other former Soviet Union republics opened their borders, the Iron Curtain fell down, and a lot of new entertainment experiences appeared in my country, like nightclubs, new substances. So I'm in a 12 years old age, and that's exactly the age when I started to use drugs. Just because it's an age of experiments with the substances, experiments with life. And when you have a leading party in the company of your friends, so if you're experimenting, you have to be first. So yeah, that's my city. Everything started quite cool, fun. I was a DJ. We started from stimulants, but then insomnia, depression, and I started to use heroin just as a sleeper. And it was my opioid trap, as I said. Hard times for me, and I had all chances to join the ranks of the graves in the cemetery where dozens and hundreds of my friends and acquaintances already lay. So I had 6 overdoses. At least 4 times I could be imprisoned I was saved by my dad, who was working for Ministry of Interior. 50 times of different kinds of treatment, but rather pseudo treatment. And finally, I joined the harm reduction programs when they came to Ukraine. And since 2002, and in 2003, when I was 23, I've been diagnosed with HIV and hepatitis C. And that actually opened the new page of my life. Of course, there was a time when the treatment was not for all. The first question I asked my doctor, how many years I could stay alive. She smiled. She said, it's a little bit silly question. I mean, the treatment is possible, but it's limited. That's why you should stay until your CD4 cells drops less than 200. So like now in these days, it here's really weird. Like you should almost die and only then you can have access to treatment. Yeah, but that's how it was. In 2004, from one of my drug users friends, I found out that there is a pilot project of opioid substitution therapy in Ukraine, and I'm one of the first patients. And that was my lucky ticket, I guess, not only for myself, but also for my, then she was my girlfriend. Now she's my wife and mother of my son. So actually that's turned my life upside down. And as you can see, finally I started my ARV treatment. My relationship with my family been normalized, and at some point I started to work in the field, just because I really felt that I have to share my experience with people in the same issues. And actually I was working for an organization which provides prevention and harm reduction services for more than 300,000 key populations in Ukraine, people of different groups, people who use drugs, sex workers, LGBTIQ, prisoners. Yeah, that's a little bit of of my activism and what we are doing to advocate for our needs and for our interests. It's about repressive drug policies. Yeah. Yeah, one day you can find out yourself on the posters with the US presidents. Yeah. But I think the main achievement of my wife is, of course, my son. Yeah. He's negative, and he's because me and my wife were both positive, but my son is negative because treatment and prevention is there. But why I'm here and why I'm talking about aging? Because as I said, I'm 42 and it's 20 years of living with HIV. And of these 20 years, 15 years, being both positive with my wife, we were struggling to have a children. We were struggling, we were trying to do it in a natural way, but something didn't work for us. We started to look for special kind of clinics for like additional reproductive technologies or some help. But we faced with an issue that people living with HIV in Ukraine are prohibited to have access to whether it's in vitro or other reproductive technologies, even to adoption. So finally, we advocated, it's changed now just recently, and the case of our family case with my son helped us to advocate as well. But could you imagine when you gave born to the child and my wife was 45 and the son is now just 3? I really want to stay alive until at least he is, I don't know, 20 or more. I want to see his children. I want to feel myself as a granny, and I feel some kind of responsibility. But unfortunately, because of the specificity, coming back to the specificity of the region and my country, and because it's region where HIV epidemic is heavily driven by injection drug. I mean, it's a concentrated epidemic, but the biggest group is people who inject drugs. And these drugs are dirty. It's not classic drugs like heroin or cocaine. It's a homemade opioids, which is quite dirty brown liquid. And of course, you have all chances to, so that's why I'm telling that in my region, people with all the health issues, they are, it's happening much faster. So in my 42, I have polyneuropathy. I have problems with the vein and cardiovascular issues. I had surgery in my lung. I have a second group of disability, and it's just 42. But I really want to stay alive as much as it's possible. Unfortunately, because Ukraine and other countries of the region, they are mostly global fund implementing countries. And when the big donors are working in the country, of course, we are all within this UNAIDS global targets 90-90-90 paradigm. when the third 90 is 90% of people on ARV treatment with viral load suppressed. That's causing the framework that your doctor, even if it's really good person, even if it's super professional, but once the treatment is prescribed, once your viral load is suppressed, that's it. I mean, the interest is lost. No, like, so you are doing every 6 months is this routine blood tests, but you are getting older and older, but nothing changes. I mean, like it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, today, I do the same tests. Nobody asked me, oh, Anton, you are 40 plus. Maybe and you live with HIV 20 years. Maybe let's check your heart systems or I don't know, some other things. Unfortunately, it's a reality of my region, of my country, and that's why I'm here. So that's briefly my messages.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. You've been through a lot in your short 42 years. So tell me a little bit about, so, you know, you said you deal with neuropathy, you're dealing with some heart challenges. How does that get managed in the context of your HIV care? Is there any communication between your different doctors? You know, what does that look like for you?
First of all, unfortunately, every issue, it's a separate line of activity with different clinics and different doctors. And when mostly it's clinics which are not specifically working with people living with HIV. So it's private or public hospitals, but nevertheless, it's just they adapted to work with the common people, but not with like people living with HIV or people who use drugs. And first issue is that you always catching yourself on the thoughts whether you should disclose your status, whether you should like honestly tell about your background, because I'm always worrying about, you know, properly being diagnosed. Of course, that there is a ratio why it's better to tell about your health issues and background to the doctor just to give him a context. But at the same time, I had a case in the dentistry when I disclosed my HIV status and I was refused from receiving the services. Of course, as being a little bit experienced activist, I knew how to deal. So I turned everything to the official, let's say, process. And finally, the director of this clinic officially apologized, and invited me like to have the services even free of charge, but no way, I don't want to. That's why the thing number one, it's not integrated. There are no specific clinics working with multiple health issues of people aging with HIV or just people with HIV. We have a network of so-called AIDS centers in Ukraine, but they are linked to public hospitals. But again, mostly in the AIDS centers, it's infectionists. And just imagine one doctor serving like 2,000 patients. It's every day, it's a queue of people near the door. So there is no possibility even to talk properly, even if you initiate some conversation about your health issues, there is no time, opportunity, or they are not really engaged because they know that there are 10 or 20 other people and they are in a rush, and so that's different. Important thing that last September, because of my new job, I moved from Ukraine to Belgium, to Brussels, and of course it's another story. And but I think it's another story. I'm just starting to explore the medical system of new country. Yeah.
And I sense that you get a lot of support and love from your wife and your son. Where else do you find support? Peer support, for example, or support around self-management in aging and, kind of navigating the process?
So just to be clear, so the question is, who motivates me, or what? Yeah, actually, you mentioned it's my peers. One of my peers is here. It's Lee. Riley. Yeah, as well as my colleague Mario. I mean, yeah. So what really motivates me is the fact that, the 24th of February, the war began in Ukraine. And due to this reason, there are a number of people not only internally displaced in Ukraine, where we are helping them through the Ukrainian network of people who use drugs, where I'm a founding member, or other partnership organizations, but number of people fleeing to outside of Ukraine to European Union countries. And that's where I already know how the system works a little bit. And I have linkages through my organization, EATG, European AIDS Treatment Group. And that's really when I know that, for instance, the couple which called me just yesterday to say that we have a ARV only for 1 day and methadone only for 2 days, and we are somewhere in the northern Belgium, in Ostende, is it possible to get access to this treatment? And I just imagine myself, and I know what does it mean. It may be less problematic in short-term perspective if you interrupt an ARV, because it's rather long-term issues. But when it's coming to methadone, it's withdrawal symptoms immediately, and it's really torture for people. And when I finally manage in this case, and I'm kind of calling, writing, and I'm providing everything they need, and then they can just write me, Anton, thanks, we got it. That's my main motivator. Yeah.
Even I felt relief when you just said that, so I can only imagine. So what is sort of, I think you talked about your hope for the future is living long enough to see your son grow up and have his own family, etc. What's one thing you feel that you're doing right now that's helping you get there? What's a strategy that you feel like really works for you in terms of helping you age well?
The first strategy is less to have less stresses, but it's impossible. I'm just trying to do that. It's, I mean, you're saying yourself like less work issues, just balance it with your family life. I don't know, do more entertainments. I don't know, some kind of, I mean, we love traveling. Actually, that's the good strategy, traveling around the world, traveling with your family, opening new countries. Yeah, even the traveling like conferences, and refreshing the sense of this global movement is also what's kind of, it's a good strategy. And finally, I feel that someone, I don't know how to say this, God or someone is watching. I mean, someone is kind of, I feel like there is some mission, and if I keep doing what I'm doing, keep helping people, keep resolving issues, that's, I will stay here for longer to keep doing that.
Yeah, that sense of purpose and giving back, so to speak, being part of something bigger than yourself. Thank you so much, Anton. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I welcome any questions if anyone has any. First, let's clap. Yes. Are there any questions? Liz?
I was about to say I don't want to be controversial, but where am I? I was going to say, how is it that there is a picture of you situated beside a picture of Trump? It seems like it's like the most ridiculous juxtaposition in the world, really. Like when you look at what you do and who you are. I know you didn't choose that. I'm just.
Yeah, it's thanks for giving me the opportunity to explain. I know that people have questions and then. So that's the celebrating of 15 years of PEPFAR, US President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, right? So the first president who signed or who established this plan, it was George Bush Jr., right? Yeah. And then every next president kind of confirmed this commitment. They do some pledges. And so, yeah, so finally, in dedication to 15 years, PEPFAR asked for some, they started to collect the stories of different people whose life was changed with the help of PEPFAR or US funds. I mean, Ukraine is not only Global Fund implementing countries, PEPFAR and Global Fund are two biggest donors for Ukraine. And it's true, yeah. So people like me, because when you're a beneficiary of the services, these services are paid by someone, right? I mean, so that's true. I just sent my story, like something like I told you here, and I don't know. I can imagine that hundreds or thousands of such stories were sent, but finally, my story were chosen as something special, and they designed the poster in the same design. Yeah, but just yeah, but I don't know why the order is because if you go after the Trump, it looks like it's announcing of new president because when yeah, I wish to be but yeah, but for that time maybe more political correct, how to say political, yeah, correct, yeah, maybe it's to do like to put me besides two president. Yeah, so that's, yeah, I'm definitely not in a fan club of Trump or yeah.
Yes, we'll have time for one more question from Portia.
It's not really a question, it's just a comment, and I just want to say I'm very proud of you for changing your life around, because my mom was like has a similar story to yours too. She was on drugs and she contracted both HIV and Hep C, and then I was born. And I think I was the reason too that made her want to change her life around. But for her, it was kind of too late when she wanted to. So I'm very happy to hear you up here sharing your story, and you know, it wasn't too late for you, you know.
Thanks for that. I think that's a beautiful way to end the talk. Thank you, Anton, for sharing your story with us. And thank you to everyone for coming.